Hello, Sacred Earth friends and family. Michelle here once again, and I'm here to talk to you today. This is part 4 of soul contracts and soul contract revocations, and today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic, and I'm going to show you how to do the soul contract revocations. I'm going to ask you to keep a very open mind on this because it's going to touch a little bit on our galactic history. And I'm not an expert in this by no means, but I'm going to share my understanding of it because there have been events on my own personal journey that have literally forced me to look at this concept, okay? Okay, so it's my understanding that in this universe, we have been involved with galactic timeline wars, okay? And Prime Creator allows this because remember, we are a free-willed universe, and this is just part of that process, that evolution, okay? Now, if you go back to very ancient times, you know, Lemuria, Atlantis, those kind of civilizations, the ones that predated, prehistorical, pre-recorded civilizations, we had access to technologies during that time that could manipulate and change up timelines. And so because there was something that we didn't learn during that time, and it was not an ethical use of the technologies that were available, because this was a very high vibrational time on the planet, and very much higher vibration than where we are now. This is really pretty much like the lowest vibration that we're at now. And so we had access to these things, to this higher level technology, okay? We ourselves were higher level beings with more of our, you know, DNA strands intact and more of our abilities intact. Anyway, not to get too off the topic, but basically the purpose of this Earth school, why we had to come here and do this whole Earth existence, is to bring remedy and resolve to these timeline paradoxes, okay? These timeline wars, okay? Because of the misuse of, oh, my camera is getting ready to fall over. Because of the misuse, let me try to prop it up a little bit. Because of the misuse of technology, okay? I'm gonna try to do a little prop here. There we go, so maybe my camera doesn't fall over. Okay, so anyway, so that's what we're here to do. We're here to try to bring remedy and resolve to these timeline paradoxes. So the way we experience it here on Earth is karmas, okay? And so you can think of this as a big jumbled up ball of yarn, big tangled up mess, okay? And the only way to untangle that mess of karma is to incarnate here on this Earth as a denser being, and at some point literally step up and declare our sovereignty. We have to do that, okay? So one thing we do during the soul contract revocation process is we call forth what's called a spiritual court of equity. And this spiritual court equity is your ancestors, those relations that you have in spirit. You call them in to bear sacred neutral witness to the revocation work, okay? And by doing that, they get a healing, and you are declaring that you are in dominion with Earth Mother. And by doing that, the people within Earth Mother's realms get a healing as well, okay? So there's a huge ripple effect out throughout this time and this existence that brings a healing, not just to yourself, but to your future and past generations, to your other versions of yourself, okay? Now, when I say other versions of yourself, I'm referring to those other existences you have, other past lives. So we call them past lives. It's not really linear. It's more, you know, spiral, omnidirectional, whatever, you know, throughout time. So whatever those other versions of yourselves that are experiencing karma in time, it affects you because you're quantumly entangled with those other versions of yourself, okay? So this sends a healing to those other lives that you've incarnated in, okay? So we do this for the purpose of remedy and resolve, okay? Let's see what else. We are here to unify, okay? So this is the process of unification. So right now we are disunified, okay? We live in disunity, and by doing this soul contract revocation work, we are working closer to the process of becoming unity consciousness, okay? To resolving these karmas. And so let me think what else I wanted to say. So this is part of the process. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit, but this is part of the process of unification. Okay? So what else did I want to talk about here? Okay, so let's talk about the how to. I feel like I'm missing a little point, but maybe it'll come to me. There's something else I wanted to say. But anyway, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you the process of doing the soul contract revocations, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do the soul contract revocation. So the first thing you have to do is set up the spiritual cord of equity. So that's the first part. So this is what you need to do a true revocation, okay? You just need the first part that I'm going to read to you, and you need the last part, okay? Now today I'm going to share with you 2 contract revocations. The first one is revocation for the divine feminine, and the second one is revocation for the sacred masculine, okay? Now since we have lived lives as men and women, we have 2 channels within us, a masculine and feminine channel. This is why we are working with both of these energies, okay? These are energies. And so that's what we're doing here. Okay, so another thing is when you are doing this work, I mean, you can pretty much do it anywhere. I mean, you could do them in the shower, as you're showering in the morning, which is really effective because you have the water there that's cleansing you. You can you know, like I've told you before, you can have a fire burning. It's super, super powerful to do it in front of a fire. You can do it, you know, in front of bodies of water. You can set up a medicine spread honoring the 4 directions, east, south, north, and west. Any objects that are meaningful to you that represent those 4 directions. You can, you know, you're calling in your helpers in spirit, your entourage in spirit that is here to bear sacred neutral witness to you and to help energize your space and power up the revocations. So that's one part of it, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to read to you, can't see that there. Okay. The soul contract revocation for the divine feminine, okay? So I'll read that, and I'm going to stop after that first part and just to emphasize what the first part looks like, because that's what you really need. Anything that comes in between the first and the last part, you can customize to suit your own particular situations, okay? So there's one of these for court system, media, government. You could make it very specific. You could do you know, pharmaceuticals, any places you've worked at. The sky's the limit. We can get into more examples afterwards, but so here I go. I'm gonna read the first one, okay? Get those glasses on. Okay, here we go. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creating moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to form a unified and proper spiritual cord of equity, so I may find remedy and resolve with all spiritual contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth and birth process. I call forth the proper spiritual cord of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based religions, cultures, belief systems, industries that dominate and control. Okay, so this is very specific. So up to where I read, I call forth the spiritual cord of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. That's the first part. Okay, now it's getting into the specifics of this particular revocation. Okay, I'm going to read that again. I revoke all spiritual contracts with earth-based religions, cultures, belief systems, and industries that dominate and control the divine feminine power in our world and create an energetic imbalance that affects every man, woman, and child on the planet. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in this spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her light denizens within all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy this spiritual court of equity. So you can see that we're still calling in that spiritual court of equity even in these later parts. O great mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity, so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I hereby revoke contracts of all religions and cultural belief systems that place the feminine in a dominated position of inequality. These include the projections of unequal pay, the inability for a woman to earn a living, own land or a business, or receive an education of her choosing. I do not consent to the feminist movement that was created and funded by the CIA to separate a woman from her divine feminine power, foster a hatred for men, and create separation and division in the soul family unit. I hereby revoke all cultural belief systems that create the expectations of a woman's duty to hold an unrealistic burden alone and suffer in silence. I do not consent to all social policing systems that have been put in place to make a woman feel like she is too sensitive, too emotional, or out of control in the attempt at gaslighting a woman's soul to make her feel like she is unstable or insignificant. Sorry, part of it's covered up. I hereby revoke all contracts of all cultural belief systems where female children are murdered at birth, sexually mutilated as a supposed rite of passage, sold off into a billion-dollar child pornography industry, or trafficked as sex slaves. I do not consent to the porn industry that has been the breeding ground for sexual perversion, spiritual contracts, and the exploitation, degradation, victimization, and bastardization of the divine feminine power. I hereby revoke the following spiritual sexual perversion contracts that are targeted at separating a woman from her divine feminine power. All group sex and polyamorous programs that are all perversions of divine sexuality aimed at making a woman feel that she is somehow not enough. All double standards in cultural belief systems where recreational sexual promiscuity, multiple wives, harems, and mistresses are allowed and celebrated for a man but cause social ruin for a woman. All programs that create projections that men put on women while masturbating, as well as perverted fantasies that are used as a barrier between the heart space of a man and a woman in a sacred sexual bond. I do not consent to these spiritual sexual perversion contracts. You have no power over me. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is in dominion with me, as well as my soul family and my ancestors. I declare that I am now clean from these projections of sexual perversion, and I return the source of innocence as a divine feminine sovereign being. I hereby revoke all contracts and concepts created in innocence or blissfully ignorant states of being. I hereby declare a new form of spiritual and physical cleanliness. I revoke all previous self-created concepts of cleanliness and any perverted attachments to myself. This new invocation of cleanliness removes all previous concepts of sacred sexuality, sensuality, recreational sex. I bring them all back to the 0 point of the fetus in the mother's womb. I reconnect all my DNA strands to that of the heartbeat of Earth Mother. The sacred feminine is connected to her heart in her sacred feminine space and does not deny her menstrual cycle. She accepts it as a time of introspection, retrospection, and reflection. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the entertainment and advertising industry that has created programs of self-hatred, low self-esteem, self-medication, self-mutilation, eating disorders, etc. I hereby revoke all spiritual contracts with the medical industry that have damaged a woman's health and ability to reproduce according to the natural laws of Earth Mother. Birth control drugs and other chemicals in our food and water and air that cause sterility or over-sexuality, as well as clothing that is damaging to a woman's health, such as bras, heels, corsets, bound feet, and tampons. I revoke all birthing contracts created through C-sections, pregnancy, drugs, prenatal x-rays, jabs, incubations, children who are not put on the mother's heart after birth, removal of the placenta and the cutting of the umbilical cord, which can stay intact for up to 4 days to allow for the child's heart bond with the mother and father. I revoke all contracts that force a woman to carry and birth a soul that is not of their co-created divine choice with their selected or bonded sacred masculine. This includes rape victims, teenage pregnancies, and forced and arranged marriages. I return to the Earth Mother, the natural incarnation grid. I now permanently delete the reincarnation grid from my soul's existence. I do not consent to all programs aimed at making a woman feel too fat, too thin, too old, too young, too black, too white, too ethnic, too rich, too poor, any projection at all that makes a woman feel that she is somehow not good enough. I hereby declare that I am more than good enough. I am an infinite consciousness. I am God, Goddess incarnate. I am a sovereign being, and I hereby reclaim my divine feminine power in this spiritual court of equity. I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic Record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times. Okay, so be it, and so it is. So be it, and so it is. So be it, and so it is. Okay. All right, so that's the Divine Feminine Soul Contract Revocation. And boy, that was intense, right? There's some pretty intense stuff in there. And so, when we do these revocations, it doesn't mean that we're not going to experience these things in this reality. It just means that the energy attached to them throughout space and time is being removed, okay? So then we become more free to move about and experience reality as we see fit, okay? So, it's at the level of energy, okay? So we can interact with the world without having that karma hitting us and pulling out our energy. That's what that's about, okay? It doesn't mean that you're not going to ever be exposed to those things or, experience those things in your reality. It's just the energy level, okay? Okay. And the more we raise up our vibration through this work, the more our reality shifts and changes, so that we might see those shifts happen in our reality where we just start vibing a lot higher and we start having different experiences in our reality, okay? Okay. Now, this next one is the revocation for the sacred masculine. I'm going to take that staple out because it was kind of blocking some of the print. Let me take that out. This one is for the divine masculine, okay? Okay. At this exact moment, in the ever-present co-creative moment, I summon all DNA lineage ancestors to create a unified, proper spiritual court of equity so I may find remedy and resolve with all contracts that have inserted fine print during the pre-birth, birth, and puberty process. I call forth the proper spiritual court of equity to hear my decree of contract removal. I call forth all ancestors of all soul relations to hold space in the spiritual court of equity. I call to Earth Mother and all her light denizens within all inner and outer space to come forward and occupy this spiritual court of equity. Great Mystery, who is the source of all power, I call to you. Come with your sacred synchronicity so all beings may hold space with unity consciousness. I call to Great Spirit who lives within Great Mystery, you, the powers of Mother Earth manifested. I call to your wisdom in this I am moment. Bless me as I walk this sacred soil. Bless me as I breathe your sacred air. Bless me as I warm myself with sacred fire. Bless me with your sacred waters of life. Bless me as I learn to walk in personal power. Today I travel the great unknown. Grant me the wisdom to be humble. Grant me the wisdom to love, even when love is not returned. Grant me the knowledge to balance my way of being, so I may heal my family, my tribe, my nation, and our Mother Earth. I am ready to invoke my natural rights as a sovereign male being born to Earth Mother through a womb of sacred feminine who is also born this way. I invoke my natural rights as a being of Earth Mother. I was born under the natural laws. With this wisdom of my natural birth, I now reclaim my place in the natural world. I revoke all energetic contracts with all people I have had sex with that was influenced by propaganda, mass-based mass media, or pornography. I return myself to the 0 point of the fetus in my mother's womb. I revoke all contracts with all the perverted sacred masculine mystery schools who have operated with false information or who have created a patriarchal dominated society. I cancel, cure, or delete all contracts contracts that perverts the sacred masculine during the birth canal phase of life. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create a sense of competition between the male species when dealing with any sacred feminine expression. I revoke all cultural taboos that create emotional distancing from women. I revoke all perverted spiritual contracts that place me in the incorrect sex that I chose before my birth. I revoke all contracts that create perversion of the male expression of sensual behavior. I revoke all contracts that house, hold, or store my sacred masculine energy to promote male-dominated sports, activities, or entertainment that demoralize or degrade the sacred feminine. I revoke all systems of patriarchal domination of the family unit. I return all definitions of family to Earth Mother so remedy and resolve can be endeavored between all families now healing the patriarch concepts. I revoke all cultural contracts I incarnated or reincarnated with that create a male-dominated society structure. I return the sacred feminine to its right and proper place as equal partners in this co-creation experience of life. I revoke all spiritual contract with all religions I have existed in that do not give full rights, duties, and responsibility in total equity to the sacred feminine and masculine. I revoke all spiritual contracts that retain me in any way, shape, or form, or force me via soul contract to serve in war. I delete all patriot programming that creates a lust for war. I revoke all spiritual contracts that define the male as war-oriented. I revoke all spiritual contracts with all government that I have served in during all times of war. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create a war-based male-dominated military industrial complex. I revoke all contracts that create a male servicing sex industry that dominates women in any way, shape, or form. I revoke all spiritual contracts that create a sense of uncleanliness within my sacred masculine expression. I revoke all contracts that keep me trapped in shame, blame, or guilt created by perverted masculine or perverted feminine personalities. I revoke all contracts with the incubus and succubus grids I may have dealt with in all of my past, present, and future selves. I hereby banish the entire incubus and succubus grid from my reality for all eternity. I hereby revoke all entire citizenship to all representations of kingship, dictatorship, religious monarchies, religious councils, or representative government concepts. I hereby permanently remove myself from all dreamtime societies interwoven with all system of domination and control that cause the erasure of our oral teachers, historians throughout the entire indigenous world. I hereby revoke every decision I have ever made while in service to the system of domination and control. All decisions made for me by a male soul contract holding representative of government are now placed in a proper spiritual court of equity with all ancestors present so we may find remedy and resolve, not justice or judgment. I now state with full sovereign conviction that I am now fully present in the mighty I Am Self. I declare this from this point forth. I now operate with a permanent spiritual court of equity when relating to healing the divine masculine or feminine, so perversion never re-enters my field of expression. I hereby declare that Earth Mother is now in dominion with me for all forms of interpersonal relations, for all sentient kind existing and coexisting on Earth Mother's realms. I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic Record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times. Okay. So after you do these revocations, you can feel that energy just, you know, it just kind of like, there's like a more space created and it just sort of pulls away from you. You just definitely had it. I really felt it with that divine masculine one. Sometimes we feel resistance come up within the divine feminine or divine when we do these. And I said divine feminine because I felt that during the divine feminine one. So I'm gonna have to take a look at that. And so we have to look at, you know, those programs that are running in us. And so what this does is it overrides the programming, okay? So we can move about our reality. We can interact it as freely as we want and shift it and change it, okay? So that's what this does. Now that last part, this is the part you want to have included in there where it says, I call forth all the ancestors to honor this reading of my free will and enter into the Earth Akashic record for all sentient kind to understand our freedom comes with the use of free will at all times. That part is what you want to end it with. Okay, so call in the spiritual court of equity in the beginning, end it with honor the reading of my free will and enter it into the Earth Akashic record. That's what you want to end it with. Okay. Now, what you can design your own, and what you write in between will be personal to you. Okay, so you can personalize them and create your own. Okay. Now, for me, when I've done them, I do the beginning and I do the end. Sometimes I get in a flow in the middle, and I just let it flow for me, and I just speak it, like whatever it is that I'm revoking or changing or trying to shift. I just let it flow out of me and speak it. So in the moment, like an in the moment thing. Okay. So what we're doing when we're creating the spiritual court of equity and revoking the soul contracts is we're also creating this what we call a no time field, and it's in that no time field that we can heal and shift our reality. Okay. Okay, so if you're wondering where I got this information, this came from the galactic historian Andrew Bartzitz. I've had a few readings with him, a couple readings, and that work has been pivotal for me on this journey. And the reason it has been pivotal for me on this journey is because I became aware of my other I ams, these other I ams who were working against me and against my resolution of karmas within my own reality. Okay, so in order for me to bring resolution and resolve to my own life and my own karmas, I have had to confront these other I ams. Okay, because without getting too much into the details, I became aware of them. Okay, so most people aren't aware of their other I ams, and so it feels a little bit like I have gone to battle, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of, we are here to resolve the battle, the war. They are at war. I am no longer at war. And so that's why it has felt that way. So I hope that makes sense to you. I am still becoming. This work is not complete. There has been so much within my inner reality and my outer reality that has been projected upon me and denied to me. I am well aware of it, and I'm here to resolve. And this comes with forgiveness. This comes with love. And all I have to say is I am blessed to be incarnated here on this planet and to have this experience. I love this planet. I love this earth of ours. And I feel like I'm getting emotional now, but it's beautiful, and I absolutely love it. So, hopefully we can all resolve karmas enough where we can fall in love with our experience. And that's how we win this. That's how we win, friends. Being joyful, having an experience, letting go of the false belief systems about, programming, right? The sin, the guilt, the shame, all that stuff that's just been put upon us. Those are programs. Okay, and that's what this does. This deletes the programs. Okay, it brings neutrality to our experience, so we can walk into a store and not be affected by it. We can watch a show on television. We can watch Netflix, whatever, and not be affected by it. We can, resolve our karmas with the people in our life and free and liberate them as well as ourselves. Okay, that's what it's about. Okay. All right, friends, I hope that made sense, and I'm sure that I could have probably talked for hours about this, but I wanted to keep it kind of simple And I hope this all makes sense to you. There are so many ways to revoke soul contracts. You can revoke them with every person you've ever known. You can revoke them with every job you've ever worked at, every person you've ever worked with, because with all family members. Because what you're doing is you're liberating them and yourself. You're untangling that ball of quantum entanglement of karma and helping them to live their life. So the bonds of love always remain. They can never be broken or severed. Those cords are there. We are all connected, okay? We are all connected. But what we don't want is those negative cords, those negative programs, those negative attachments, okay? We want to step out of that so we can have a divine experience with the people we love as we move forward into the future. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope you have a very blessed day, friends. You can message me with questions if you have them. Namaste.